It was a Tuesday afternoon. A Chatham area transit bus was working a routine route through Savannah. Waters Avenue, Lexington Avenue, the same stops it hit every day around 5 p.m. Passengers on board, driver up front, nothing unusual. Then a man started acting up. Police would later identify him as Brandon Collier, 40 years old. A passenger told him to stop. He attacked her. What the driver didn't know in that moment, she was legally blind. And the man attacking her? Police records show this was his 44th arrest. The driver stepped in. He was attacked too. Within seconds, the bus had gone from commute to crime scene. 2 people were now hurt. Neither had done anything except be present, and one of them had tried to help. The bus sat frozen on that afternoon route, and what had been ordinary was over. What happened next is why this arrest made national headlines.
A man has been indicted on several charges following an attack at a Chatham area transit bus back on June 16th. Now, Brandon Collier faces several charges, including aggravated assault, criminal damage to property, and intimidation of a disabled adult.
Police responded to the scene near Waters and Lexington. Daylight, rush hour, a city bus that had not moved since the driver stopped it. Both victims needed medical treatment. The driver was hospitalized. The scene was not a back alley, not a dark parking garage, not a location you warn your children about. It was a Savannah city bus in the middle of an afternoon on a route that hundreds of people take. That is not incidental, that is the point. Public transit depends on a specific contract. You get on, you are moved, you are delivered. It is ordinary, and it is necessary, and it is safe, until it is not. And when it is not, the people inside have nowhere to go. The suspect had fled before police arrived. 2 injured people remained. The bus remained. And one crucial fact about the woman who had spoken up first was still waiting to surface. She was blind. Local reporting, reviewing, police records connected to the case confirmed it. The female passenger who told him to stop, the first person he attacked, was blind. Early coverage described injuries to her face, neck, and forehead. Multiple teeth appeared chipped or broken. She could not see what was coming. She heard disruption and she said something. That is what most people tell themselves they would do. Speak up, do something. She did, and he hit her in the face. There is no way to frame this as anything other than what it was. A man confronted by a blind woman on a city bus who responded by attacking her. The driver saw it unfold. He made a decision. The attack was not over. He stepped in. The driver left his position. The seat, the controls, the separation between him and the passengers, and intervened. That is what the reporting shows. He moved toward the violence. Police say he was attacked for it. He was later hospitalized. But the physical record of what happened did not stop with the victims. When police documented the scene, the protective barrier, the partition built to separate the driver from passengers, was found on the ground, completely destroyed. That is not the result of a shove. That is not a scuffle. That is a man tearing through the architecture of a transit vehicle. Prosecutors would later use it as a criminal damage charge, but at the scene, it told a simpler story. This was not a moment of disorder. This was force. 2 injured people, a hospitalized driver, a shattered barrier lying on the floor of a city bus, and the man who had done it, gone. He fled, off the bus into the city, away from the scene. He was not there when police arrived. For a moment, this could have become one of those cases. A violent incident, limited description, no suspect, no resolution, but the bus had cameras. Investigators reviewed CAT security footage. The transit system, the same system that had just had its driver hospitalized and its barrier destroyed, had been recording the entire time. Police used that footage to identify the suspect. He was arrested the same evening. When officers took him in, they found crack cocaine on him. The initial charges stacked: aggravated battery, criminal damage to property, obstruction, possession of a controlled substance. CAT permanently banned him from its services. His name was Brandon Collier. He was 40 years old. And the arrest charges were only the beginning of what prosecutors thought they could prove. By July 2025, the case had moved into indictment. What began as a violent arrest had been refined, expanded, built into a formal charging document that named specific counts and described specific injuries in language that removed all ambiguity about how seriously prosecutors intended to pursue this. 2 counts of aggravated assault, 2 counts of aggravated battery, 2 counts of exploitation and intimidation of a disabled adult or elder person, 1 count of second-degree criminal damage to property, 2 counts of obstruction of an officer. Then the injury allegations. Reporting on the indictment said prosecutors alleged one victim's eye had been rendered useless. The other victim's face, they alleged, had been seriously disfigured. These are allegations from a charging document. But the language prosecutors chose to use, useless, disfigured, told the court and the public exactly how they were reading the physical evidence. This was no longer a bus incident. In the hands of prosecutors, it had become a targeted violent case built around 2 vulnerable people. Savannah was beginning to ask a different question, not what happened, but who had done it and why was he still here to do it. 43. Multiple outlets reported it. This was Brandon Collier's 43rd arrest in Chatham County. WJCL reported his record stretched back to 2002, more than 2 decades. Prior allegations included battery, cruelty to children, aggravated assault. One number, and the whole shape of the story changed. What had been framed as a shocking outburst on a public bus became something else entirely. Not a single eruption, not a random act, a pattern. A man who had passed through the arrest system 42 times before this and had still been free to board a city bus on a Tuesday afternoon. The question the city started asking was harder than the facts of the assault. How many times does the system cycle someone through before it stops being a system and starts being a failure? The answer, it turned out, was visible. There was a recent case, a violent one, from just months before the bus. November 2024, WTOC connected the bus attack to an earlier violent incident in Savannah. Collier had been accused of threatening a tourist with a liquor bottle, harassing people nearby, fighting with police officers. He was arrested. Then he bonded out. Less than 7 months later, he was on a CAT bus acting disorderly near Waters and Lexington. A blind woman told him to stop, and the sequence played out the way it did because, after the November case, he was released back into the same city where it had happened. The November case was no longer just backstory, it was a direct line, a violent public incident, a bond release, and then another violent public incident, this time with a driver hospitalized and a barrier in pieces on the floor. And there was one more detail buried in the fallout from that earlier case. Someone had not been told he was out. WTOC reported that fallout from the November prosecution led to a victim advocate being fired. The reason, a victim in that earlier case had allegedly not been notified that Collier had been released on bond. That is a specific structural failure, not an oversight, not a delay, a complete gap in the notification process, a process that exists precisely because people who have already been victimized by a specific person need to know when that person is free. Someone in that system did not do that. Someone lost their job because of it. And the bus attack happened after. The story was no longer only about what Brandon Collier did on a city bus. It was about everything that had to stay broken or fail. For him to have been there in the first place. Savannah had a violent repeat offender. It had a notification failure. It had an injured victim advocate system. And now it had 2 people hurt in public, in daylight, in a place anyone could be. The city was going to have to say something about that.
What? I ain't do shit. So what the hell you talking about?
I don't want to do this, but
man, I'm not putting my head behind my back on shit. I didn't do shit, nigga. What the f you talking about, nigga?
Where y'all the title? What y'all gonna do?
You ain't about to that. Nah, I ain't no, he ain't got to stand nothing.
I'm trying to figure it out.
You ain't got to be part of nothing. Hey man, don't run up on me.
Mayor Van Johnson responded publicly. Katz said it was reviewing and upgrading safety measures, new shields for buses, additional operator training. Officials made clear that the existing camera system had already proven its value. It had identified the suspect, same day, same evening, before most people knew a driver had been hospitalized. These are real responses. Shields matter, training matters. The cameras had already worked. But none of it answered what had already happened to 2 people on a bus near Waters and Lexington. Policy moves forward. The people already hurt do not get to move forward at the same pace. A transit upgrade does not undo a hospitalization. A new shield does not reassemble a broken barrier or repair the injuries prosecutors had put into a formal indictment. The city had reacted. The victims had already absorbed the impact before the reaction began. There was one question left. Would any of it end in real consequence, or would the case dissolve the way the November case had dissolved, with a bond and a door left open? The 6th of October, 2025. WTOC reported that Collier entered a plea covering both the Cat bus assault and the earlier November 2024 violent case. 2 timelines, 2 incidents, 1 resolution. Total sentence, 20 years. 10 years in prison. 10 years on probation to follow. Reporting said he was sentenced as a repeat offender and that he would not be eligible for parole. The judge also recommended possible transfer to a transitional facility at the Georgia Department of Corrections' discretion. Substance abuse evaluation and treatment were ordered. Public reporting did not confirm a current facility assignment. What the plea did confirm was this: the 44th arrest, the bus, the blind woman, the hospitalized driver, the destroyed barrier, the indictment alleging an eye rendered useless and a face disfigured, was the last one that would end with a bond and a door held open. The door closed. 10 years, no parole. The case is closed. Plea entered. Sentence imposed. October 2025. It is not pending, and it is not appealing, and there is no open question left in the Chatham County court system. What remains is what the case left behind. A blind woman spoke up on a city bus. A driver tried to stop what followed. Both were injured. The bus cameras identified the man who ran. An indictment described injuries that prosecutors called permanent. A 2-3-year arrest history surfaced. A victim from a prior case was never told he had been released. A victim advocate was fired. A mayor made statements. A transit system upgraded its shields. And one man is now in prison sentenced as a repeat offender, with no reported parole eligibility for something that took less than the span of a city block to happen. The case became a story about what public space costs when the systems built around it accumulate failures slowly, invisibly, and then all at once. No single failure explains the bus attack. The November arrest did not guarantee it. The missed notification did not cause it. The 43 prior arrests do not, on their own, tell you why the 16th of June 2025 was the day, but stack them and the picture holds. 2 people stepped into ordinary public space and were injured by something the system had touched dozens of times and kept releasing. They could not have known. Nobody warned them. Nobody warned anyone. That is what the bus case became. Not a mystery. A record.